In the quiet interplay between desire and power lies a truth so deep it has been hidden in plain sight for generations. What if I told you that some of the most brilliant minds in psychology, from Carl Jung to today's leading neuroscientists, have identified the precise mechanism that sparks unwavering devotion in the male mind? This isn't about manipulation or playing games. It's about truly understanding the primal foundation of desire. The most captivating women throughout history intuitively understood this principle. They realized that a man's desire isn't fueled by what comes easily, but by what challenges him at his core. They learned to reach that delicate space between a man's ego and his inner shadow, creating not just attraction, but something far deeper: obsession. Today, I'll reveal the psychological key that turns casual interest into lasting devotion. Backed by science, this insight explains why certain interactions form powerful emotional bonds and uncovers the exact psychological switches that trigger a man's deepest loyalty. What you're about to learn may forever change how you view relationships, not through tricks or deceit, but through a sincere understanding of the masculine psyche in its most authentic state. Are you ready to embrace what might be the most life-changing knowledge about love? Have you ever noticed that the more you pursue a man, the less he seems to value your attention? The reality is that there's a little-known truth within male psychology. One that has been guarded for centuries. It's a secret that can inspire deep love in a man, even if he once seemed completely indifferent. Carl Jung, one of history's most influential psychoanalysts, uncovered through his study of the collective unconscious that every man carries a deep, ancient wound. When this wound is touched in just the right way, it awakens a powerful drive within him to prove his worth, and that is exactly what I'm here to teach you. Picture this: igniting a passion so strong in the man you want that he can't imagine his life without you. Imagine him thinking about you constantly, reaching out, craving your time, your energy, your presence. What I'm sharing isn't just a tactic. It's age-old wisdom rooted in a deep understanding of the masculine heart. This is about reaching into the soul of a man, not to control or manipulate, but to awaken the parts of him that long to protect, to commit, to cherish, the part of him that wants to rise and show you he's worthy. Too many women spend years trying to win back or hold on to a man with methods that simply don't work. They give everything: love, time, attention, and get only fragments in return. Why? Because they're missing a key truth about how the male mind is wired. Modern neuroscience has now validated what Jung knew all those years ago. The male brain is designed to value what it must pursue. It seeks challenge, something that affirms his identity as a man. Once you grasp this, truly internalize it, you hold the power to transform the way men respond to you. What you'll learn today is timeless. It's what the most alluring and unforgettable women throughout history always knew. Intuitively, Cleopatra, Marilyn Monroe, and the greatest seductresses throughout history all grasped a powerful truth about the male ego. Prepare yourself, because after watching this video, your perspective on relationships will shift completely. The way you connect with men will transform, especially with that one man who's been on your mind. Once you apply what I'm about to explain, he won't see you or himself the same way again. What I'm going to share traces back over 100 years to when Carl Jung, after parting ways with his mentor Freud, immersed himself in the study of the collective unconscious. Jung discovered that beyond the ego, the part of our psyche we're aware of, there lies a deeper, more intricate structure that governs our innermost desires. To truly understand how to affect a man's ego in a way that stirs love within him, we must first explore what Jung referred to as the shadow, the hidden side of a man that even he often doesn't recognize. It's the vulnerable part that quietly fears inadequacy, being unappreciated or not being admired. You may have noticed that some men seem confident outwardly, yet carry deep insecurities inside. This is the internal conflict Jung mapped so thoroughly, and it's within this very contradiction that the key lies, the power to ignite a man's intense emotional attachment. Let me illustrate this with a real example. One of my clients, Jennifer, was head over heels for a man who barely acknowledged her. She gave him everything, her time, her attention, her energy. She was always there for him, and the more she gave, the less interested he seemed. It felt like a cruel twist of fate. When Jennifer came to me, devastated and confused, I shared with her the same insight I'm now sharing with you. I explained that, according to modern neuroscience, the male brain produces more dopamine, the chemical, tied to pleasure and reward, when faced with a challenge. When something comes too easily, the male mind tends to undervalue it. But let me be clear, this isn't about playing games or manipulating anyone. It's about recognizing the deeper dynamics of what Jung called the sacred masculine, the essential energy within men that drives them to prove themselves, to overcome, and to achieve. The first thing I taught Jennifer was Jung's concept of the anima, the inner feminine that exists in every man. This aspect deeply shapes how a man relates to the women around him. When a man projects his anima onto a woman, he elevates her in his psyche, seeing her as almost divine. This is the root of overwhelming passion, of intense and lasting romantic, of fixation. So how do you get a man to project his anima onto you? It involves a unique approach, one that lightly challenges his ego in a meaningful, respectful way. We're not talking about insult or harshness. We're talking about reaching that tender spot within him, the one that drives him to prove his value through you. Jung found that when a man is gently tested by a woman he admires, when his sense of worth is questioned in a subtle, thoughtful way, something profound occurs within him. His psyche enters what could be described as a heart-centered trance, a state in which winning her love and recognition becomes his deepest desire. I'm going to share 3 time-honored insights that can awaken a powerful state in a man's mind. 3 key ideas that transform Jennifer's love life and have done the same for countless other women who embrace them. The first insight is what I refer to as the mirror of the soul. Carl Jung once observed that a man longs to see the best version of himself reflected in the eyes of the woman he cherishes. When you show a man that you recognize his potential, even if he hasn't yet fully lived up to it, you stir something deep within him. He feels compelled to grow, not just for himself, but also to become the man you believe he can be. This doesn't mean pointing out his flaws. It's a far more subtle and powerful approach. It means expressing genuine belief in his abilities while holding a quiet confidence that he's capable of more. It's a look that says, "I see who you could become," rather than, "I accept you exactly as you are." That nuance can be profoundly life-changing. The second insight is what I call the paradox of presence. Modern neuroscience has shown us that the male brain is naturally wired to pursue what is inconsistent rather than what is always available. It's the same principle behind the addictive nature of gambling. An unpredictable reward generates much more dopamine than one that's certain. So when you're constantly available, endlessly present, and always giving love without limits, the male brain, however unfair it may seem, begins to tune out. You become familiar, predictable, and subconsciously less valued. The paradox of presence suggests that you should be like the moon, always there, but in phases, visible yet slightly elusive, open but not entirely accessible. This isn't about being deceptive or playing manipulative games. It's about respecting your own journey, your own space, and your personal sense of mystery. In doing so, you awaken a desire in him to rise up, to earn the right to be fully part of your world. And finally, the third insight is something Jung described as the confrontation with the shadow. Every man carries buried fears, fear of inadequacy, fear of being disrespected, fear of abandonment. When you approach those fears with empathy and wisdom, not to manipulate, but to help him grow, you create a bond that reaches beyond surface attraction or temporary chemistry. The most powerful kind of emotional wound is the one that invites healing. It's as if you're silently saying, "I see your fears, your darkness, your insecurities, and still I choose to see the light in you." This kind of presence holds incredible power, one that few women recognize or utilize. Now back to Jennifer's story. Once she began applying these 3 principles, the change was swift. The man who once barely acknowledged her began to seek her out constantly. Texts that once took days to arrive now came within minutes. He was eager to show her he was worthy again and again, and within just 3 months he had completely fallen for her. Not with a shallow or temporary love, but with a deep, enduring connection. One that grew stronger because she helped him face his fears and become a better version of himself. This is the true power of Jungian psychology when applied to love. This is the power that comes from truly understanding the deeper layers of the masculine soul. And now, I'm placing that power in your hands. We've arrived at the very core of this profound knowledge. I'm about to show you exactly how to use the 3 secrets I've shared. Through clear, practical examples you can begin using right away. This is the most impactful part of the entire teaching, so give it your full attention. To apply the mirror of the soul, the first step is to see beyond appearances. Jung described this as seeing past the persona, the social mask a person wears, to discover his authentic self and untapped potential. When you're having a conversation with him, ask questions that encourage him to speak about his dreams rather than just his accomplishments. For instance, asking, "What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail?" is far more revealing than simply asking, "What do you do for work?" That kind of question connects him with his ideal self, who he truly wants to become. After listening with sincere curiosity, say something like, "Do you know what I see in you? I see someone capable of achieving far more than you already have. There's something in your eyes when you talk about that. It hints at the remarkable man you're meant to be." This type of reflection resonates deeply with the masculine psyche. It's not criticism, it's a loving challenge. You're showing him that you recognize a potential in him that even he might not fully acknowledge. It nudges his ego just enough to ignite a desire to show you his true worth. Recent neuroscience research shows that when a man feels challenged in a positive way by a woman he respects, his brain releases not only dopamine, but also vasopressin, a DHT neurochemical linked to bonding and loyalty in mammals. It's quite literally the brain chemistry of love and deep connection being activated. Remember, the masculine ego thrives on challenge. When you present that challenge wrapped in authentic admiration, it creates the ideal psychological response in him. Now, to use the paradox of presence, understand that this isn't about playing games or using manipulation. It's about valuing your own life and embracing your personal mystery. Jung spoke about a concept called individuation, the journey of becoming fully yourself. In practical terms, this means that when a man enters your world, he shouldn't find a blank space waiting to be filled. He should encounter a life that is already full, vibrant, and meaningful, one he hopes to become a part of. Stop replying to messages instantly, not as a tactic, but because your life is truly full. Create and protect parts of your world that are exclusively yours. A spiritual practice, a creative outlet, or deep friendships. When he shows interest in those areas, share them with enthusiasm, but don't feel the need to invite him in or make him understand every detail. Let parts of your world remain a little mysterious. Science shows that the male brain is especially stimulated by unresolved mysteries. These unknowns take up mental space and can fuel fascination and longing. One of my clients, Sarah, a holistic and therapist, used to share every little detail of her day with the man she liked, every client, every thought, every update. I suggested she shift that approach. The next time he asked about her day, I advised her to smile and say, "It was transformative. I had some powerful insights. Maybe I'll share them with you someday." That simple shift created a magnetic effect. Suddenly, he was more curious, asking more questions, and eager to know what was going on in her inner world. She wasn't pretending, far from it. Instead, she was consciously choosing to surround the more profound aspects of her life. With an air of sacred mystery, this leads us to the third and most powerful insight, facing the shadow. This is where a deep emotional impact can awaken a man's intense love. Carl Jung believed that every person has a shadow side, parts of themselves they ignore, suppress, or are ashamed of. For many men, this shadow includes vulnerability, the fear of inadequacy, and the anxiety of not being respected. A highly effective way to engage this aspect is through something I call reflected vulnerability. It begins when you bravely reveal your own vulnerabilities, creating a safe emotional space that encourages him to face his own. You might share a personal fear, insecurity, or struggle, not dramatically or seeking reassurance, but with calm self-acceptance. For example, you could say, "Sometimes I worry that I'm not enough, but I'm learning to accept that part of me too." What you're really doing is giving him permission to be human with you. He doesn't have to be flawless or always strong. Then when he opens up about his own challenges, maybe a work failure or fear of rejection, you have a rare chance to impact him in a truly transformative way. Don't rush to comfort him by dismissing his concerns or offering cliches. Instead, look at him with sincere attention and say something like, "Thank you for sharing this. I see your struggle, I feel your pain, and I also see your strength in facing it. That's what I admire in you, not perfection, but bravery." In doing so, you're denying his ego the easy escape of surface-level comfort and instead honoring his deeper journey. You're not wounding his ego to hurt him, you're challenging it in a way that reveals his real strength. You're showing him that true courage lies in facing what he fears most, his own shadow. Modern neuroscience supports this. When someone feels genuinely seen in their vulnerability, the brain releases oxytocin, the bonding chemical associated with deep emotional connection, like between a mother and child, or during moments of intense intimacy. It forms a primal, unbreakable bond. For a man, being fully seen and accepted by a woman he respects creates a connection far stronger than simple attraction or compatibility. He becomes emotionally attached to the experience of being seen, known, and honored. Take Amanda, one of my clients. She applied this principle with a man who had avoided emotional closeness for years. He stayed in shallow relationships, never letting anyone in. But Amanda gave him the space to confront his fears, his fear of being abandoned, his insecurity about not measuring up. Eventually, he cried in her arms. A man who had never shown vulnerability finally found a refuge for his hidden self. 3 months later, he proposed. Not because she played a game, but because she gave him something he had never received before, a reflection of his entire self, not just the parts that were easy to love. This reflects Jung's core discovery about the male psyche. A man doesn't simply want to be admired for his strength. That's superficial. Deep down, he longs to be seen entirely, including his weakness, his fears, and his hidden truth, and to still be valued. When you offer that to a man, you ignite more than affection. You awaken a deep and sacred loyalty. You become more than a partner. You become a guide, a woman who helps him unite all aspects of himself. What I'm sharing isn't just a technique. It's a path of inner growth, both for you and the man in your life. This wisdom speaks to the sacred balance between masculine and feminine energies, something Jung studied with great depth. By applying these ideas, you're not simply challenging the male ego, you're inviting transformation, healing, and wholeness. And through that process, you evolve too. Pause and ask yourself, how often have you dimmed your light just to avoid making a man feel small? How many times have you silenced your truth, minimized your power, or held back your desires out of fear he might leave? The bitter irony is that doing so likely pushed him away anyway. Jung's work reveals a deeper truth. The masculine doesn't crave a watered-down version of the feminine. He craves her in her full radiance, fierce, mysterious, and powerful. A woman who not only mirrors his strengths, but also helps him awaken his own inner wisdom. When you learn how to challenge the male ego in the mindful way I've shown you, you don't just change how he views you, you transform how you see yourself. You begin reclaiming your inner strength, your essence. One of my clients, Jessica, was a high-achieving executive who often downplayed her accomplishments when around the man she admired. She feared coming across as intimidating, but when she started using these methods, not only did she win his heart, she also discovered a new sense of self-empowerment. For the first time, she told me, I've realized I don't have to choose between being powerful and being loved. I can be both. That's the real breakthrough this knowledge brings. It's not merely about winning a man. It's about rediscovering yourself, reigniting your essence, your sacred fire. Here's the deeper truth. When you learn how to engage with the male ego in this transformative way, you become naturally captivating. Not because you're playing games or being manipulative, but because you're coming from a place of honesty and true power. Neuroscience backs what Carl Jung once observed. Men are biologically drawn to women who radiate authentic self-confidence. Research shows that testosterone, the hormone tied to male desire and attraction, increases significantly when a man is around a woman who demonstrates self-respect and firm boundaries. This goes beyond psychology. It's biological. A man's body instinctively reacts to genuine feminine strength. So how can you bring this wisdom into your everyday life? How do you turn it into your new reality? Start with your relationship with yourself. Before practicing these principles with any man, try them in front of your mirror. Look at yourself and recognize the untapped potential within. Acknowledge your depth. Face your hidden fears. This personal reflection is key. You can't offer someone else what you haven't yet claimed for yourself. Next, pay attention to how you engage with the men in your world. Not just romantic interests, but also friends, co-workers, and family. Do you often try to please, say yes when you'd rather speak up? Always available, always agreeable? Begin to shift these habits, not as a tactic, but as an act of truthfulness. Respect your feelings, your boundaries, your gut instincts. One client started simply by saying, "I disagree," instead of nodding along like she used to. That small act of honesty completely changed how men responded to her. Her thoughts were now heard, respected, and even challenged with seriousness. When you're ready to apply this with the man you wish to attract or reconnect with, start slowly. Don't use everything at once. Subtlety is your strength. Begin with what I call the paradox of presence. Nurture parts of your life that belong to you alone. When he asks about your day, share with joy, but keep some mystery. It was an insightful day. I discovered something meaningful about myself. And when he asks what it was, simply smile and say, "It's a journey I'm still exploring. Maybe I'll share it with you one day." Not to play hard to get, but because some discoveries are deeply personal and sacred. Then try the mirror of the soul. When he tells you about a success or goal, don't only congratulate him, encourage him to go further with love. Say something like, "That's impressive. And you know what I see in you? Someone with the potential to go even farther." The way you speak about this reveals something extraordinary. Recognize the potential, and when trust between you grows, create space for confronting the shadow, perhaps by first sharing a personal vulnerability, a struggle, or a fear. This opens a door for him to reveal himself fully as well. When he begins to show signs of falling deeply in love, remember, this is a power that must be handled with care and responsibility. The real purpose of gently challenging the male ego is not to foster dependence or unhealthy obsession, but to support his growth, to help him integrate all parts of himself and become a more whole, balanced man. Jung explained that true love isn't about two halves completing each other, but two whole individuals recognizing each other. When you apply these principles as I've shared, you're not just winning over a man, you're guiding him to conquer himself, and in doing so, you also free yourself. You liberate yourself from the need to dim your light, hide your strength, or become less than who you truly are to be loved. You realize that genuine love doesn't ask for the sacrifice of your essence. Instead, it thrives when you stand fully in your power, your truth, and your vitality. This is the revolution Jung began over a century ago. A revolution not only in love but in awareness that I now pass to you. A revolution that starts with understanding that gently challenging the male ego is, at its core, an act of love for both him and you. Now, you hold knowledge few women possess. You have the map to the male psyche's labyrinth and the keys to awaken not just desire or attraction, but true devotion, commitment, and transformative love. As we close this deep exploration into desire's structure, remember, what you have gained is not just knowledge, but wisdom. The wisdom to see that real power in relationships comes not from control, but from the courage to be authentic. The paradox Jung saw so clearly is this: when you honor both your light and shadow and embrace your mysteries without apology, you become not only attractive but transformative. You create a sacred space where a man can finally drop his defenses and discover himself anew through your eyes. This is the ultimate alchemy, turning the ordinary patterns of relationships into the gold of genuine connection. What we've explored is not just about stirring devotion in another, but awakening your own magnificent wholeness. The greatest seduction is always truth. Not the easy truth that leaves us unchanged, but the challenging truth that calls us to evolve. When you live this truth, you don't just change how others see you, you change how you see yourself. So carry this ancient wisdom forward, not as a tactic, but as a way of life. Use it not to dominate, but to heal. Use it to build relationships where both souls grow into their fullest selves, where vulnerability becomes strength and separation transforms into deep unity. The path is now clear. The revolution begins, not tomorrow but right now, with your next thought, your next word, your next genuine act. The real question is no longer what you must do to be loved, but who you will become when you finally allow yourself to be truly seen.